Hello, how's it going, all of you beautiful people around the world? My name is Ryan, aka Blackbeard TCG, and in today's video, we will be talking about Doflamingo. See what I did there? I know it's a little bit corny, but that's what I'm calling it. Yes, we will be talking about the film package in the new green-purple Doflamingo leader that's going to be in OP-04. Now, this isn't a deck profile video. This is more so a deck discussion. Kind of just want to put this topic and this idea out there. There's already a bunch of people that are theory crafting, people that are playing this, so I'm by no means the first person to come up with this. I think once people saw this card was revealed, everybody instantly started thinking about film cards. Whether it's better than a pure Don Quixote Pirates version, I don't know, but this is a deck that I think can be really interesting. So first and foremost, let's start talking. Let's break down the idea behind green purple Don Quixote Doflamingo. So of course, his ability, at the end of your turn, you can set 2 of your Don cards as active. So when you think about that, right, what would be the benefit of you having active Don during your opponent's turn? Well, there's 2 things. Knowing that you'll be able to have 2 Don active at the end of your turn means that you can fully tap out, well, for the most part, right, depending on what events you have in your hand. You know, maybe you want to leave 2 up and then all of a sudden you have 4 up and now you can have more event cards. But essentially, you can fully tap out, play whatever you need, and then of course you'll have 2 Don up on your opponent's turn, which then leads to the advantage of you being able to play event cards. Event cards are very powerful, really good on defense, disrupt your opponent, interrupts their board, all of those things. You guys know how events work. And that, in my opinion, is going to be the way to play this Doflamingo deck. You want to have a lot of interrupts. You want to be able to control the game through your event cards because you're always going to be able to have 2 Don open at the end of your turn. So with that being said, you know, before I start talking about the film package and the cards, because I think we all know about the cards in the film package, so that'll be relatively quick. Let's just go over some of the events. And shout out to Nakama Decks, as always, giving us this awesome tool here, updated and has all of the translations. All is good. So let's go ahead and search green purple events. And I guess I want to start off with, well, let's start off with the OP-04 events. So the cards that are going to be in this set. Now, of course, obviously, if you were playing the pure Don Quixote Pirates version, you would go ahead and play this one, the Don Quixote family. We're not doing that in the film edition. So which ones are we going to be playing? For me, the 2 that stand out are either Spiderwebs or Flap Thread. Now, in terms of how many copies for the events, again, we're going to have to wait and see. I'm really excited for all of our friends over in Asia. They're able to finally get their hands on OP-04. It is released there for them. So I'm sure people are going to be cooking something up. I'm sure that people are going to have some dark technology. We'll be able to see all the ratios and things like that. But in terms of Spiderweb, this could definitely see play because it's a generic 2 cost Don, 4K power for the battle, you know, standard stuff that we see. And then you can set 1 of your characters as active. So I think that's pretty cool because it's basically a Paradise Waterfall, but a little bit stronger, right? So I think that that's a very welcome sight, especially when you look at film builds, you're always going to be running that Paradise Waterfall, right? Speaking of Paradise Waterfall, let's go ahead and add that as well, which I believe is OP-01. And there it is, Paradise Waterfall. So of course, Paradise Waterfall is going to be another one. As we just said, your leader or character gets 2,000 power, then set 1 of your characters as active. So I don't know, again, will Paradise Waterfall be better to just play multiple copies of this and you forego Spiderweb to open up for other event cards because they have the same ability, but obviously this gives you a little bit more for the cost of 1 more Dawn, so it could be redundant. Maybe you want to play both. We don't know yet, but obviously these ones are going to be very, very helpful in a film focus build for Doflamingo. Of course, I want to talk about Flap Thread. Now, at first I was looking at this and I'm like, this card is dog. Like, what? Like, why would I not just want to play Paradise Waterfall? Then I realized that it's this turn. I learned how to read. I learned how to read, and then I realized that it's this turn and not this battle. So being able to have plus 2,000 power for the entire turn could potentially be really, really good. Especially when you're trying to play that grinded out defensive style. You know, having that extra 2,000 power can completely throw off your opponent's calculations, their lethal calls, all of those things, right? So, I don't know. I think Flap Thread might be a 4 of, in my opinion. Of course, it needs testing, but I think that this card is actually really damn good. So I could see his being a 4, but again, in terms of ratios, I'm not 100% sure in terms of what's going to be the ideal play. Now, the last green card I want to talk about is going to be Punk Gibson, which I believe is right here. So Punk Gibson, again, pretty standard. You're going to see this in kid decks. You're going to see whether it's regular kid, supernova kid, whatever, whether it's film kid. Punk Gibson's really good just because you're able to obviously get that 4,000 power, which we all know. But then you can rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less, which is always really nice because there's so many things that are 4 or less that are seeing play. And so Punk Gibson is really good. It'll be interesting to see how the meta develops to see if you do value your Punk Gibson over other things. Not too sure as of yet, but I guess we will find out. But these are the 4 green cards that I could see us playing and quote unquote abusing to be able to fully tap out and then still have access to playing these cards. Of course, if there's any other events that I might be missing, of course, let me know in the comment section below. Again, this video isn't a deck profile. It's more so a deck breakdown, a deck discussion. So we can just start talking about this and theory craft and put stuff together. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the purple events. So what events do I want to talk about? Well, I want to start off by talking about, what is that one card? It's film, and it's in, I think it's in starter deck 5? Yes. Okay, Union Armado. Now this is interesting. So obviously we're going to be running a film engine, right? So for 2 Dawn, again, we'll be able to easily play this because we'll have 2 Dawn active. Up to one of your film characters get 4,000 power for the battle. Okay, standard. And now that character cannot be KO'd this turn. Again, it makes things really, really interesting. I think that this card could see play. Again, how many copies, I don't know. But because, again, we're running film, we have access to this. I think that this could definitely be a nice, even potential 2-of card because it is technically searchable as well. But that's just my opinion. You know, for me, if I'm playing this Doflamingo build, unless like the events are just straight up 100% broken, I feel like you kind of want to have like a wide variety of them so you could just always be playing a bunch of them. Or you just want to have a bunch of your really strong ones. I don't know. Again, we'll have to see. But Union Armado is definitely a purple card that I think people are going to want to play. Obviously, we have to talk about Starter Deck 4, and we have to talk about Blast Breath. This card is obviously going to be very, very good, right? You know, I'm just thinking of scenarios where you have your 10 Dawn, you play your 10 cost Don Quixote Doflamingo, you're fully tapped out. The end of your turn, you get 2 Dawn available. Now you can go ahead and use your Blast Breaths as well on defense. And then, of course, if you have 2 Blast Breaths, boom, you can use them. Guess what? On your turn, now you start your turn, you're back at 10 Dawn. So I think that Blast Breath is probably going to be a 4-of in this deck, in my opinion. Again, if you guys disagree, let me know. But I look at it and I'm like, I think it's too good to not play. Okay, so my whole idea with Doflamingo is you don't really have innate ramp in the sense of some of the other leaders in purple that would have like a stage card, for example, Galila Company or Onigashima, or other tools to really help you ramp out. Of course, there's regular cards in purple that can help you ramp, but in my opinion, I feel like you really want to use these events that won't really send Dawn back, unless obviously in the case of I'm getting too excited, I'm talking too fast. Except for in the case of Blast Breath, there we go. Where, of course, obviously, like, if you pay 1 Dawn for it, you get that Dawn back the next turn. It's not the end of the world. Whereas the next card that I'm talking about that you guys know I love so much, which is a part of OP-02, and that is, where is it? Hell's Judgment. Love this card so much. I think it's so strong, right? You send back 1 Dawn, give your opponent's character 2 of them, minus 3,000 power for the turn. I think Hell's Judgment is really good. Of course, you have to send back 1 Dawn, but I do think that there is value there, even though it costs 2 and you have to send back 1. I do think that there is value here in the Hell's Judgment. It is a very, very powerful purple card. Couple other purple events that I want to talk about that are a little niche, but definitely I could see have play in OP-04. If we take a look at OP-03 and we look at purple, I want to talk about Top Knot. I think Top Knot is a very interesting card. Now this one, of course, is probably a little bit too expensive, and I feel that it could be better. You know what? Honestly, I don't think that people would be running this, but I could see a world where they might. So You pay 2 Don to play it, which you'd obviously have open, but then you have to send back 2 Don. Then you can return 1 character that your opponent controls with a cost of 4 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. So this is really good. This is like 1,000 worlds. Now, if this was 5 costs or less, this would definitely see play. Obviously, to deal with Marco, obviously this could deal with the 4 cost Marco, but I'm talking about the 5 cost Marco. I feel like Top Knot would be a lot better to deal with it in that sense. But just because it's minus 2 Don, then you also have to send 2 Don back. Not gonna lie, it seems really expensive. Not really sure if that's something I want to do. Again, it's something that you could potentially play. I'm gonna go ahead and add it to the list, but you know, I'm not vouching for it like I would a Blast Breath, which is like a easy 4 of in my opinion. Okay, so that is 4 purple cards. There's one other purple card as well. Obviously, you have Thunder Bagua. You know, gives you a little bit of ramp as well. Was that starter deck 1 or OP-01? I think that was OP-01, right? There it is. Yeah, so I mean, we all know this card. Obviously, if you have 2 or less life, you can have 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it, which is obviously good. We're playing a 4-color leader. 4-color. Can you imagine? A 4 life leader. So Thunder Bagua will probably be live and active for you when you are ready to use it. So these are the events. Again, in terms of ratios, in terms of which ones, I'm sure it will depend on how the meta shapes up. But these are the events that I'm assuming that you'd want to play with that 2 Dawn open at the end of your turn. Now, of course, let's talk about the film package. Why are we playing film, right? Like, you have to think about it. For what reason? Why would you play film when you could just play the Don Quixote engine? Well, we all know the film package is very strong. We see it in Kid. It's really consistent. And on top of that, it just allows you to really develop your board and put on pressure on the opponent. You combo that with having a lot of defensive events that allows you to get to your end game and play your 10 cost Doflamingo. So let's start going over the characters real quick, and this will be a lot faster because, again, we all know the film engine from OP-02 and onwards. So first thing I want to talk about is, let's just add all the film cards, right? So let's go with, take off purple. We'll keep it as green. We'll change it to OP-02. There we go. So yeah, so pretty standard package. You're going to have your 4 Usopp. You're going to have your 4 Luffy, which is your bread and butter, along with the 4 Zoro, 4 Nami, which is definitely the bread and butter. So 4 Zoro, 4 Nami, 4 Brook, 4 Luffy, 4 Usopp. You know, obviously you want to have your 4 Choppers, which is going to be your 2K counter. Then you can have your 4 Frankies as well. And that's going to round out your film engine, right? These are the cards that you're typically going to be playing in film. Of course, you could drop some copies of Frankie if you want. I'm a big fan of Zoro. I'm very comfortable keeping max copies of that. But yeah, again, you can play around with these ratios, but this is kind of the core, right? Okay, what other cards are you going to want to play? Well, if we come to starter deck 5 again, and we take a look at purple, let me take off OP-02. Don't want to get confused. There we go. If we take a look at Buena Fiesta, right? It's a searcher. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal to 1 film card other than that and add it to your hand. So it's a searcher. But more importantly, it is a 2K counter. Okay, well, there's other 2K counters. You can play any 2K counters in green and purple. Well, it is a film 2K counter, which means it gives you another searchable 2K counter off Nami, which is really good because now you can search for your Chopper, you can search for your Fiesta. You're able to have 2K counters in that sense. And in absolute worst case scenario, if you really want to try to dig for that Monkey D. Luffy into Brook, into whatever play, right? Nami play or whatever, because you have those tools in your hand and maybe you're just trying to dig for that Luffy, you could play your Fiesta and search for him that way and hopefully get him, right? But there's no guarantee. But the good thing is, the main thing is that it's going to be a searcher. It's not going to be a searcher. It's going to be a 2K counter that's also searchable off Chopper. Now, of course, playing purple with green, you have a wide variety of 2K counters to add. Again, if you want to have more 2K counters in your build, you definitely can. You know, typically when you're 4 life or less, those type of decks are going to play a lot more 2K counters. But again, we have a bunch of defensive events that we're going to play anyway that could probably circumvent that. Okay, so what about the late game? How do we win? All that good stuff. Okay, so let's talk about OP-04 real quick. So we're going to go ahead and switch this over to green. And of course, we have to talk about Don Quixote Doflamingo 10 cost. This card is absolutely strong, and this is why you play the deck. Instant 4 copies of this without a doubt. This card is just absolutely nuts. Again, I've talked about it before, but being able to stun 3 cards, one of them being your opponent's leader card potentially as well. Guys, if you could play Doflamingo into Doflamingo, oh my god, it's so disgusting. You run your film package that allow you to have that early mid-game play, have that consistency, and then you get to the end game, you get to turn 5 and onwards, and you're able to start playing your Doflamingos very easily, able to protect it with your Union Armado. You're able to restand it with Paradise Waterfall or Spiderweb or whatever it's called. You have all these tools to keep it alive, right? It's one of those things, again, that I'm a big fan of. I think that this is probably one of the main reasons why you run this deck. And then you could say, oh, well, Ryan, well, then why don't you just play the pure Don Quixote Doflamingo engine? We definitely can. And who knows? Maybe some people figure out a hybrid version of both. Maybe some people figure out that the pure Don Quixote Doflamingo engine is just way better. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I just think that the film package is tried and true. We know it's good. I think that it will have a lot of value. Now, there's some other cards that I think are interesting as well that you could put in. Obviously, there's Sugar. I think Sugar is obviously really good. Being able to rest any one of your opponent's characters, right? I think that's very, very strong. On play, obviously, you can rest a cost of 4 or less, but then also on your opponent's turn, when they play a character card, you can rest any of their cards, right? Which is really strong because then when the turn comes back over to you, and then you're able to then play your Don Quixote Doflamingo 10 cost and then stun it immediately. So yeah, so that is the Doflamingo film deck breakdown discussion. I'm very, very curious. How would you guys build it out? What type of counter cards would you run in it? Do you guys think that this would have some value, or are you guys just planning on running full out Don Quixote Pirates build? You know, run your trebles, run your Demontes, be able to have your searcher, all of those good things. Is that what you guys are planning? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think, and I am so excited to see what people are going to be playing in Asia. OP-04 is here. Shoutouts to Queen. Again, you guys know I am the resident Queen supporter. I think Queen is absolutely amazing. I've said it once, I've said it before. Queen is the wave. I'm going to try to convert as many people to loving the Queen deck as much as I do. I'm out. Peace.